My book, Human Experience, is about understanding the serious hang-ups we have, like eating disorders, anxiety about sleeping, fears like agoraphobia or claustrophobia, and sexual hang-ups. To deal with these problems effectively, we first have to change how we perceive our bodies and other people. When we see a nude figure in a painting, we usually think that we're seeing what a body really looks like. Those artworks, though, are displaying bodies that are posed for someone else to look at. But that is not the most basic way that any of us experiences our own body. Most basically, we experience our bodies in action as the power to do things in the world, such as tying our shoes, putting out the trash, greeting a friend, catching a bus, or opening a door. These experiences are object-oriented. In everyday life, our focus is the task we are engaged with, and our body is usually inconspicuous to us. When a toddler learns to ride a tricycle, or a teenager learns to play guitar, the object, the tricycle or the guitar, initially appears foreign and challenging, and our engagement with it is awkward and uncomfortable. But when the baby masters sitting on the trike, and the teenager masters fingering the strings, the trike or the guitar no longer seems alien. Once we become habituated to using things, we no longer notice them, and they recede into the background in our experience of using them to do something, just as our bodies inconspicuously recede into the background in our engagement with some task. So it's as if through the process of habituation, our body absorbs those things that used to be alien into itself. So the way our body appears in our everyday experience then is not so much like the posed nude of European painting, but as a dynamic power for engagement that is always tensed and at the ready, and its form is something more like a live electrical circuit that runs through the things of our familiar world than like the contours of our anatomy. When we think about other people, we typically imagine seeing other bodies, but there is a more basic experience of other people. To experience another person is mostly to experience yourself as looked at. When we perspire or lose our voice while giving a speech, for example, we experience ourselves as subject to the judgment and evaluation of someone else. Most basically, the experience of another person is the experience of another perspective from which we want approval rather than condemnation, another perspective that we hope will recognize us fairly and welcomingly. Like the body, other people are largely inconspicuous in our everyday experiences. When I sit on the bus in front of someone, or walk down the street past someone, I see those people, of course, but I ignore them, and I don't think of their perspective as important. But even in those experiences, I'm still grappling with the other person as a judging and recognizing perspective. I can walk down the street minding my own business only because everybody else on the street agrees that that's how we should all behave. The street itself, as a safe and indifferent space to walk in, is something that is only brought into existence by the collective endorsement of that interpretation of the space by all the people who use it. Our experience of other people, then, is thus built into our very experience of things. Now, the way a child grows up navigating the judgmental perspective of its parents is what gets built into that child's basic ways of experiencing its own body. Through habituation to the ways, healthy or unhealthy, that our parents had for dealing with the issues of power, approval, and judgment, those interpersonal dynamics become built into the very meaning of our basic bodily actions, like walking, eating, sleeping, talking, or having sex. In large part, our hang-ups are the unresolved problems of our early family life still shaping our behavior in ways we no longer recognize explicitly. To deal with these problems, we need to change our perspective on what things like eating and sleeping are. We won't solve our eating disorders by thinking about nutrition, for example. Instead, we have to recognize those practices as embodying a vulnerable child's way of dealing with the often unhealthy, judgmental perspective of its parents. It's when we start reinterpreting our behavior in this way that it becomes possible to solve some of these problems.